So, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All right. Is everybody having a good evening? How about that worship? Yeah? We got Mishkanim in the house. Everybody give them a round of applause, all right? Yeah. That'd be my favorite praise and worship team ever. So, and I didn't say that just so I could get a CD either, so. No, it's great having you guys again. It's always good. You know, I'm sitting here, I was thinking, how in the world could I follow that? I mean, like I said, Howie, he stole 2 of my lines already. The line did the same thing. She got 1 also. So what's left? So I said, well, I'm just going to go up there and hope the Bible and tell them, just do what it says. Let's go home. So anyway, this week's Torah portion. Has anybody got the clicker? I don't have the clicker. So you're either going to have to keep up with me or bring me the clicker, one or the other. Catch? Yeah. Yeah. You're not a very good thrower, though. Yeah, see the dot? He throws like a girl. Come here, Josh. Come here. This is the official clicker man. This is the guy behind the camera all the time. Okay? Y'all give him an applause there. Sound guy. I'm sorry. Sound guy. How about Josh? Sound guy. He makes me sound good. See, without auto-tune, y'all would really hate listening to me, right? All right, so this week's Torah portion is Vayakhel. What does it mean? Hey, y'all can read. All right, good. And he assembled. It is a super long Torah portion. It happens to be a double Torah portion this week. So you get a double blessing. Since you guys tomorrow are going to be sitting at home, resting, Shabbating, because we had such a great worship session tonight. Yeah. You can read the second part of the Parsha, which is Parkude? I can't say it right. So anyway, we're going to study on the first part of it, Exodus 35 through Exodus 38. We're going to get into Ezekiel 45 and the 1 Kings also, which Mishkanim's already led us into, and Hebrews 9, 1 through 14. If you guys don't believe in divine appointments, you're going to really be blown away because, like I said, a lot of the things that were covered in the worship and praise sessions earlier are some of the very things out of this week's Torah portion. So, and I'm sure they didn't plan that, and I'm sure I didn't plan it either. So, I didn't even know they were coming. So, and he assembled. Exactly. So, let's start off. We're going to talk about gathering. This is what we're doing right now, right? Gathering. Exodus 35, 1 through 2 says, And Moshe assembled all the congregation of the children of Israel and said to them, These are the words which Yahweh has commanded you to do. Work is done for 6 days, but on the 7th day it shall be set apart to you, the Sabbath of rest to Yahweh. Everyone doing work on it is put to death. So does that mean tomorrow you guys are going to be driving around your pickup trucks with big scopes taking out people that are working? I'm just wondering. Crossbow, yeah. You can get away without that. There's no rifle repeat on that. No, kidding. No, but is that what it really means? Are you to put someone to death for working on Shabbat? Let's talk about it. It is significant that all of the laws of what constitutes forbidden meklacha, that is labor, on the Sabbath, are learned from the actual 39 architectural types of work that are described in this week's Torah portion on building the sanctuary. All 39 forms of work are in this Torah portion. So we learned these 39 architectural forms of labor, and they were involved in making the sanctuary on the 6 days of the work week. Okay? It is only when we abstain from providing or performing forbidden labor on Shabbat that performing those labor for God on the 6-day week can be said to be truly intentional and praiseworthy. The labors that are forbidden on Shabbat are called melechet mekshevet. It is a labor that involves mekshevet, i.e., it is intentional. Those are the types of labor that are forbidden on Shabbat. Is it intentional work? If you're driving down the road and your car blows out a tire, did you intend to have to get out there in 105-degree heat with your good Sabbath clothes on and jack it up and change it? No, you did not. It was not intentional. But unfortunately, there is work involved to get it changed, right? If your ox is plowing along there and he falls off in the ditch, do you not have to get him out, or are you going to leave him there until he dies? Have you ever tried to push an ox out of a ditch? That's a lot of work, okay? So the type of labor that we're talking about working on Shabbat is intentional, okay? So that means you literally got up, got dressed, and intended to go to work. See, Shabbat is a gift. It's given to us by Yeshua. Yeshua actually told us in Mark 2:27 and 28, the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. So the sons of Adam is also master of the Sabbath. The writers of Hebrews makes it clear to us that the seventh day is still valid. It says, and Elohim rested on the seventh day from all of his works. So there remains a Sabbath keeping for the people of Elohim. For the one, having entered into his rest, has himself also rested from his works. As Elohim rested from his own, let us therefore do our utmost to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall after the same example of disobedience. That is Hebrews 4. So, we're talking about assembling. What is the point in assembling together on Shabbat? What do you think is the whole purpose? Encouragement. What else? Magnifies Yahweh. What else? Anybody want to stab at it? None of these answers are wrong. They're all true. There you go. It's about unity, becoming one people with one purpose. Oh, I got ahead of myself. The Hebrew words read, Vayakhel Moshe et Yada b'nei Israel. Literally translated, it says, and assembled Moshe the congregation of the children of Israel. The word assembled is pronounced Yagel. That is spelt Yod Kaf He Lamed. A form of the word kahal. Y'all should recognize that word. Kahal. It is the same word, but it's spelt without the yod. It is spelt Kaf He Lamed. Kahal is commonly used for the word community. Another variant is kahalath or kihilah, which you've probably heard a lot. A lot of Messianic congregations across the world and across the nation have that in their names, kehilah or kehilat. It is used when referring to a religious assembly, a congregation. Another variant having the same meaning is the name of a book in the Hebrew Bible known as Ecclesiastes. Did you know that? Ecclesiastes, which is Greek, is actually a form of ecclesia. So what the word Yakel is saying is that Moses actually assembled all the children of Israel, and they became one kahal, one assembly, one community of people. In Hebrew, it is not just that the group of people came together for one reason. It points to the fact that people came together united in a common belief, in a bond, in such a way as to become one people. This collective group, who would bring their offerings to the tabernacle and then build it together, would truly become Am Echad, one people, through his work. This is so important that the very Shekinah, the divine presence of Yahweh, is revealed in his sanctuary. Now, just around this room, looking around here, we have so much different in every person. Each one of you is a little different. Some of you look a little different. Some of you have different skin tones. Some of you come from different states, different backgrounds. Some of you even come from other countries, Howie, and have accents. But how can all of us become one if we're so different? It's for being one purpose together, one purpose. Ecclesia. There's that word, ecclesia. Ecclesia means the assembly of Israel. It's a common biblical phrase denoting all of Israel. In its noun form, the word kahal typically passes into the Greek lexicon version of the Bible as the Greek word ecclesia. Ecclesia is a common term throughout the Greek Old Testament and Scripture. It is generally used to speak to the assembly of worshipers in the temple or the whole assembly of Israel. In the New Testament, English translators translated it with the theological charged term church. The church translation of ecclesia has misled all of us because of the double standard in translation. It appears to most readers that the church is an exclusive New Testament term, a phenomenon disconnected from the Old Testament, as the word never appears before the book of Matthew. But in reality, the word church does not appear in the Bible at all. By translating ecclesia as church, our English Bibles have made us think that the church is a completely new and different institution. So the word translated in this week's Torah portion, Exodus 35:1, as congregation, is the Hebrew word adiah. The same word is typically translated into the Greek as the word synagogue, from which we derive the word synagogue. So in the Gospels, the epistles and ecclesia seem to refer to the assembly of people, while synagogue refers to the place of the Sabbath assembly. You see the problem? For example, we know that believers refer to themselves as an ecclesia, because we can read it in 1 Corinthians 11:16. Paul refers to all the synagogues of Jewry, which includes believers and non-believers, with the same word. The early meeting places of the believers were synagogues. James chapter 2, verse 2, the text says, if a man comes into your assembly, that is synagogue. The English translation of the American Standard Version actually chooses to translate synagogue in this instance as assembly rather than synagogue. Translators did not want to infer that believers were meeting in synagogues. In reality, they were. And they called their places of assembly synagogues. Just change one word. That's all you got to do. You know, earlier we were talking about the importance of being in the Word, studying it for yourself. Because if you don't take the time to look at these three scriptures I just pointed out and actually look at the original language they're written in and see the translation, if you don't do that, then you'll never understand what I just said. You'll think automatically, because this is the way it's written, that the church is new and the synagogue is old. The church is for the believers, synagogues for them Jews. That is what you'll come away thinking if you don't take the time to study for yourself. And like Dan said earlier, you know, we do our best to teach you, but there's going to come a day when we're dead and gone. It's going to be up to you. And when somebody asks you, your answer doesn't need to say, well, Dan said. It needs to be, well, check this out. Look what I found. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. You need to be able to explain the difference, right? So I know for a lot of you, that's an old hat. That's an old study. But we have a lot of new people. A lot of new people that tune in online. A lot of new families that come to our congregation that are just coming into this walk. So it's very important for them to understand this, because these are things that they're going to be confronted with by their friends and their family. They need to be able to show the reason why they're not crazy, right? So since we're on the Sabbath, let's go back to the Sabbath for a moment. Exodus 35:2 says, work is done for 6 days, but on the seventh day it shall be a set apart to you, a Sabbath of rest to Yahweh. Anyone doing work on it is put to death. There's that term again, death. Neil, I need to put you to death. He's like, go ahead. Just go ahead. I'm ready. No, there is more than one type of death, guys. There is a physical death, and there is separation from Yahweh, which is the worst death. This is the death that I'm going to be talking about tonight, is the spiritual death. Because when you work on Shabbat, there's something that happens. Your Father in heaven has got the day off, and he's waiting for you to come home and hang out, and you're busy. That creates a separation between the two of you. The Sabbath is affectionately called the wedding ring. And it is a test to see if the bride will be a faithful bride, to rest during this appointed time with her bridegroom. Thus the Sabbath begins the teaching of the Mishkan, the bridal chamber. Without the Sabbath, there is no bridal chamber. The Sabbath is a prophetic day ushering the bride to her wedding, Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. The Sabbath also represents the last feast day after the 7-day Feast of Tabernacles at Sukkot. That is the wedding reception, called the 8th day, L'Shemoneh at Eretz. It is likened to the bridegroom asking the bride to linger just one more day with him after all the wedding guests have returned home. The extra day is a 1,000-year representation of eternity. Beyond the 7,000 year, back to the garden. You can find this in Hebrews 3. So, you see the importance of Shabbat. Why is it like the wedding ring? Because it comes around once a week. Around, around, and around. If you don't make time for your spouse, pretty soon, they're not there waiting for you anymore. Okay? Just let that go around and around a few times. It's the wedding ring. How many of you have children in the room? Okay? Have you ever called your child up, your adult child, made big plans? Said, oh man, we're going to do so-and-so, so-and-so. Come over at 7 o'clock. We're going to eat. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to play games. Everything's great. Things going, and we're going to have a good time. They say, okay, that sounds good. And then when the day comes around, you go to all that. You've got dinner ready. Everything's ready. You're anxiously waiting your children to show up, and they don't show up. How does it make you feel? Come on, guys. How does it make you feel? Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. Or they show up late. That's not fair, Pop. It's not fair. But it's true. So, Yahweh's the same way. He puts the Sabbath aside to actually spend time with you every week. It's a practice session. because the day is coming where you're going to spend eternity with him. That's when he says, hang on. You don't have to go back to work tomorrow. We're done. Now you can spend one more long day with me and never have to go back to work. Now, wouldn't that be great? But like all Shabbats, there's always seems to be something that tries to disrupt your time with the Father on Shabbat. Is that right? Yeah. I had a mom over here going, mm-hmm. What happens on Shabbat that doesn't seem to happen any other time of the week? What happens? Huh? You're late. What else happens? Kids get sick. Yeah. Water well goes out. Only seems to happen on Shabbat, right? Worked fine yesterday. Well, there's another thing that always happens. Because when you get stressed, strife happens. If you ever want to see two people get angry with one another, just put a problem right in the middle of it. One's trying to go one way, the other one's trying to go the other way. It'll cause all kinds of fun. Well, this week's Torah portion talks about that also. Exodus 35:3 says, do not kindle a fire in any of your dwellings on Sabbath. Well, we're going to freeze to death in winter, I guess. Right? Can't kindle a fire. We're going to freeze to death in wintertime. But is that really all that it means? The Hebrew word, la taba arush esh makol moshav, techem beri ayom ha-shabbat. The lighting up here is not very good. We're going to go with that. Most read this as, do not kindle a fire in any of your dwellings on the Sabbath day. However, the word for kindle is ba'ar. Here it is preceded by lamed aleph, or la, which means do not or no. By adding the vav or u on the end, referring to you, we read, do not kindle you. The root word here, ba'a, also translate as to burn, as in fire or wrath, or to be stupid. That's what it says. Or be barbaric. Yeah. Notice there's a lot of laughing in here because we've all been like, that was one stupid thing I did. Right? It also comes from barbaric. So, olive shin spelled resh, ish, or ish. And what does ish stand for? Fire. Okay? It has a number of the meaning and the connotations such as fire. It can mean anger. It can be wrath, strife, destruction, as well as man. Well, that makes about sense because we seem to tear up everything. And these are the things that we use in order to tear them up. Am I wrong? Man's behavior is destructive, right? It's far easier to destroy things than it is create. There's the reason why God's the only one that's ever created anything and why the devil's done nothing but try to tear it down from day one. Because man cannot create. Here's an example that you can use by moving these little words around here. Here's one. Don't be stupid with anger in your colonies on Shabbat. You can actually read that right there if you just move that word and change a different round. Don't be stupid with anger in your colonies on Shabbat. Now, ladies, what happens in your house on Sabbath morning a lot when you're trying to get service on time? The kids won't let you. You're trying to deal with it, right? What is Dad usually doing? Come on, you're going to be late. We're going to be late. You're always late. And what is your response? Usually it's very good. And then what happens? All the way into the car, all the way service, walk through the door. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Good to meet you. Yes, glad to be here. Sure. That's what happens, right? Did you ever stop to think that that's the devil doing that? We need to break this cycle. And I know we're all laughing about it, and I brought this up because there's a lot of people online right now listening. There's a lot of people at home. There's a lot of people right here that think they're the only ones that deal with this. It only happens to their family. All these other people are perfect. After all, when they walk in, they say, well, Shabbat Shalom, good to meet you. Yeah, so. Right? Oh, they're perfect. They don't have any problems. No, they do. They've been through the same things. Do not let strife destroy your Sabbath. Because as soon as it does, that's it. How can you enjoy your time with the Father if Satan's derailing you with all of this? And that's what he's trying to do. Because the last thing he wants you to do is to take a day off and spend time with God. Because if you do that, then how is he going to get at you? How is he going to win? So he'll use anything to distract you. Think about that the next time the kids are running naked through the house, taking their clothes off, screaming, pulling their hair, got gum in their hair, and Dad's saying, come on, we're going to be late. Yeah. And he's standing there going, I got myself ready. What's taking you so long? Yeah, that's right. Warm up the truck. There you go. That's right. Think about that. Just stop and think about it for a minute. Say, devil, you're not going to win. You're not going to win this time. If we're late, we're late. Moving on. Instead of, we're going to talk about that for a moment. This is not meant to be an instead of translation. When studying the Torah, we are not to consider Hebrew words in all of their aspects. We are to consider the Hebrew words in all their aspects. So, we don't kindle a real fire on Shabbat either. But what does that mean? What if it's cold? You going to freeze to death? What if there's no light in the house? You going to walk around in the dark? Yeah, that's going to make somebody mad. You ever stump your toe on something in the dark? You'll speak in tongues, I guarantee it. Yes, you will. No. If you follow that line of reasoning, how can actually Shabbat be an actual delight? Think about it. If that's your line of reasoning, how can you enjoy the Sabbath? Can't delight in it. If you're freezing cold, it's kind of hard to be delightful. If you can't see and you're groping in the dark, it's hard to be happy. Right? All of the words and meanings associated with kindle or ba'ar are associated with removing or consuming or destruction by fire. The word means to start, to create a fire for those purposes. We must prepare in advance. There's another thing that causes strife. Yeah. Oh, I got off work late. I got to run to the store. It's going to get sundown in 5 minutes. What am I going to do? Oh, my goodness. Like you didn't have 5 other days. But we waited till Friday at 5 when everybody else is at the store to go try to run and grab something real quick, right? And you knew going into it that it was going to be a problem. You're dreading it the whole way in. It's like, oh, I hope the lines aren't long. I got to get, and the family, we got to cook the dinner, and it's going to be, what are we going to do? Right? And then what happens? Where you at? Right? That's what happened. Where you at? Fix me sundown. I'm in the checkout line. Hurry up. I'm trying. But you try to go next time yourself. Right. It happens. Okay. I'm not even going there. We must prepare in advance by heating our homes and giving light throughout our dwelling. By having certain things already kindled, the light, we light the Sabbath candles, we can light others from these also. If you heat or cook by a little fire, have it already started. Have enough fuel. Have enough ready. What about light switches and thermostats? Now what? We didn't even go in there. What about elevators? Oh, man. There's people that won't turn on a light switch on Shabbat because they think it's kindling fire. There's the other side of the coin. You go too far. Or start a car. The phrase in any of your dwellings is Bakal Moshav Tekshem, literally translated as in your colonies or in your cities. This is not about one person's tent. It's about the entire community. This is what it means to be one people. This is the reason why they lived in community. Everybody knows when Shabbat is. Everyone knows what's needed. Everyone's helping to get it done ahead of time. Unfortunately, we live in a world that doesn't want to stop for anything. And we want to milk every minute to get as much as we can out of it. We live in this world. It's hard to unplug from that and unwind on the Shabbat. It's hard to get these things prepared, is it not? Moms, how hard is it to prepare for Sabbath? Tell me. It's hard, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. We do. Sure do. Remember that guy I brought up earlier and said, this is a sound guy? He's the one that said that, not me. Throw the tomatoes that way. So let's talk a little bit more about this kindling real quick. Okay, how much time do I got left? Oh my goodness, I'm going super slow. Sorry. Scriptural phrases, kindle the fire, is actually used 5 times. It speaks of Yahweh specifically bringing destruction, as in Jeremiah 17:27. But if you do not obey me and set apart the Sabbath day, and not to bear a burden when entering the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I shall kindle a fire in its gates, and it shall consume the palaces of Jerusalem and not be quenched. You can also look it up in Jeremiah 21, 49, 50, and Amos 1. 18 times Yahweh speaks of kindling his wrath against his enemies, as well as the house of Jacob. For lack of wood, the fire goes out. And without a slanderer, strife ceases. As coal is to burning coals, and wood is to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. Guys, you already know what's going to happen on Friday night. You know what's going to happen on Shabbat morning. Let it go. Don't let it get you upset and mad, because it's going to steal your joy and your delight, and that's what the devil wants. Yahweh also speaks of kindling compassion in, how could I give you up, Ephraim? How could I hand you over to Israel? How could I make you like Adam? How could I set you like Tisboim? My heart turns within me. All my compassion is kindled. I shall not let the heat of my wrath burn. I shall not turn to destroy Ephraim. For I am El, and not man, the set apart one in your midst, and I shall not come in enmity. Hosea 11. We can learn something from that. It's still a choice to allow these things to kindle our fire. We call it different today. We call it pushing our buttons. The term for kindling, is that up there? Yeah. The term for kindling and the phrase kindle a fire most often applies to the welling up of emotions and letting those emotions out in a public way. Oh, You make me so mad. Okay. No, they pushed your button and you chose to get mad. Because you let it get up inside of you. You know, emotion is such a wonderful thing. We can have righteous indignation. We can have compassion. We can have love. We can have anger. Even anger can be good if it's directed in the right way. But unfortunately, we don't know how to deal with that too well. That's why we have VCS Ministries in the house tonight. And VSC, I misspoke. If you're having anger issues, they can help you deal with it. They offer classes. I can tell you they're very good. I learned a lot about myself. And I learned that I'm an abusive husband. And the funny thing about it was I never knew that until I went through that class. Because I always thought, well, that's not the way I meant it. That's not how I didn't mean it that way. I learned it doesn't really matter the way I meant it. It matters the way that you took it. We're responsible as men to our wives to make sure that we're not doing something that is causing problems, just like our wives are responsible as well for us. So I learned that it doesn't really matter how I meant it. It matters how she took it. And if she took it wrong, then that needs to be addressed. A lot more than just, well, it ain't my fault she took it wrong. That ain't how I meant it. I can't think that about me. Oh, that'll start a good fight. Talk about killing fire. Woo! No, it's important to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way, but why did you take it that way for? And tell me, what did I say? Exactly. You know, I started doing that, and this is kind of a sidebar, and I won't take much more of your night on it, but one of the things I learned is about halfway through it, I'd stop and say, yeah, this sounds like something stupid I'd say. Every time. It's like, yeah, I don't remember it that way. It's funny how a lot of times that we remember ourselves in a good light. And it's always the other person that's in a bad light. Very rarely, as how I was talking about earlier, do we actually look inside right here. Because it starts with us. We have to start with us. And it moves out from there. All right, off my soapbox. Offerings. This is the meat of the matter, what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Can you guys give me 10 more minutes? Is that okay? 10 minutes? Anybody say no? All right, so we're going to skip ahead of the temple then. All right. The assembly of Messiah is actually metaphorically spoken of as the temple. Did you know that? In 1 Corinthians 6:19, Paul reminds us that we are to function as the holy temple of God. And again, in 2 Corinthians 6:16, he says that we are the temple of the living God. It must be remembered, Moses did not build the temple. Do you realize that? Moses didn't build the temple. He brought down the instructions, but the people did the building. This teaches us that the assembly of Messiah is created by the individuals within it, within us. Just as the Israelites labored to make the various components of the tabernacle, we labor together to create the assembly of Messiah on earth. Do you see the correlation? The responsibility falls on us. Unless we contribute to the project and set our hands to the tasks, the work does not get done. No one else is going to do it. The Israelites all brought different gifts as they were able. They labored in different departments, and they gave of their various talents to complete the tabernacle. In the exact same way, We all have different roles and functions within the assembly of Yahweh. We all have talents. We saw some of those talents on earlier tonight. We saw musical talent, the ability to sing. We saw people's rejoicing. We saw people in prayer. We have a tendency to think that unless we can use a hammer and nail, or we can be a carpenter or electrician or a musician or a pastor, that there's no purpose for us, that we don't have any gifts. Because we want that mountaintop moment where we go up and say, let me tell you about Shabbat and how it was changed. And let me tell you all these wonderful laws. Aren't they great? And if that person doesn't go, oh, then we think we haven't done anything. Am I wrong? That's what we think. Like some big revelation is supposed to happen. What about the things every day in our lives? The daily walking, the 6 days working, the 1 day of the Shabbat. What about that? That's a testament in itself. That takes a gift in itself. It takes a gift to be able to deal with all this stuff. I see it every Shabbat. These young families coming here, these guys don't just have one kid. They got 4 and 5. Okay? All dressed, everything's going, they come tootling right on in. And I can't help but hear and sit and think, how in the world did they get all of them together and get them here looking that good? It's a miracle. It is. Just to accomplish that. That's a talent. Not all of you can stand up here and give a message. Not all of you can stand up here and lead worship. Not all of you can write a book, sing a song, do a hymn. Not all of you can cook. But all of you have talents. God gave you a talent. Are you using it? Are you using it? We have to labor together to create the assembly of Messiah on the earth. It is our responsibility. No one's going to build the tabernacle for you. Moses brought the plans down. The people did the building. Okay? God is not going to supernaturally reach down into you and build your tabernacle right here either. You got to do the work. Right? The last that I brought, we talked about our bodies being the temple of God. Well, God can't be in a nasty temple, can he? It's our job to build it. God's not going to build it for you. He could if he wanted to. But that kind of defeats the purpose, don't it? The reason why these instructions actually even exist is so that God can spend time with you without destroying you just by being in his presence. That's a loving God. That's not a vengeful, spiteful God that wants to burn you with a magnifying glass when you mess up. He cares enough about you to say, I want to be with you. I want to be in your presence. I want to come and worship with you on Shabbat. I want to dwell inside of you, but you're going to have to clean some stuff up. Because otherwise I can't. Because if I do, it'll kill you. And that's not what I want. No father wants that for his children. Right? No father wants that. Since we're talking about the body, 1 Corinthians 12, the Apostle Paul turns to the body of Messiah metaphorically to explain this actual concept. He points out that a human body is comprised of many parts. One believer may be likened to a foot, another to a hand, and yet another to an ear, and still another to an eye. The body is healthy only when all the various parts of the body are functioning in their God-given roles. Maybe you're a foot. Stop trying to be an eye. Maybe you're an eye. Stop trying to be an ear. God gave you a talent to use, no matter what it is. Use it to build the tabernacle. You know, sometimes as leaders, we have a tendency to make sure that other people get the opportunity to participate in building the tabernacle. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Sometimes with good intentions, we say, well, I'm going to wait and see what everyone brings to Moses to build the tabernacle, and whatever's left, I'll kick in. Well, guys, what happens when there's nothing left? Something to think about. That's a good intention, and we all have it. But if we wait too long, we'll miss our own blessing of being able to participate in building the tabernacle. This is the reason why your elders study, come up here, give drashes, try to help out, be available. There's a lot of things we do behind the scenes that nobody sees because they're not supposed to see it. We're supposed to do it and not tell nobody. That's what we're supposed to do. It's all about building the tabernacle. It's not about getting the glory. It's about building the tabernacle. And with all of this talk of viruses, end of the world, all of the craziness going on, God's on the throne. He's got a plan. And if you think coronavirus is going to stop that, you're sadly mistaken. It could be the very thing that he uses in order to accomplish the plan that he has. So, once again, let's focus on the things that we can do. Not only to help ourselves, but to help others. To help the tabernacle. And let's continue to build it. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you for watching a teaching from Emet HaTorah. If you are ever in the Odessa area, we would love to welcome you to our Shabbat service, 11 a.m. every Sabbath. For more information or for more teachings, feel free to find us on the web, www.emethatorahodessa.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Thank you. God bless you and your family. Shalom.